Hello, my name is David Wall-Rice. I'm professor of psychology and also curator of Crown Forum at Morehouse College. As part of our ongoing Crown Forum conversation sessions, I'm very pleased today to be in conversation with Dr. Juana Mendenhall, who is endowed chair in chemistry, the endowed Walter E. Massey Chair of Chemistry to be exact, and also in conversation with Dr. Ulrica Wilson, who is in mathematics and who is also chair of our faculty. As we're going through this pandemic that COVID-19 has yielded us, one of the things we wanted to be sure of at Morehouse College is that we continued to have a lifeline to the institution, and we're able to illustrate and highlight the things that we are still doing on campus. And these two important scholars and professors are very generous of their time, considering all they do, to be in conversation with us today and tell us a little bit about how they have pivoted and transitioned to working with students both research-wise and scholarly-wise on campus. So thank you to both for joining us today. And I guess Dr. Mendenhall, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, telling us what you research, what you're doing, and kind of how things are, the state of things.
Considering everything. Thank you, Dr. David Wall-Rice. As you stated earlier, I am the Walter E. Massey Professor in Chemistry. Is actually deemed over the entire physical sciences. And what I've just tried to be creative as much as possible with the transition. It's been a little challenging just trying to, figure everything out, coordinate student schedule and things of that nature to continue our research. But my research basically lies at the intersection of chemistry, biology, mathematics, and engineering. So it kind of covers the entire diaspora of STEM in a sense, where we actually take chemistry or things that we make in the laboratory, we test them in biological systems. We actually look at modeling a lot of these processes, and then we actually do engineering to see how we can actually tweak these chemical systems to make them better for biological processes. And it's all hands on deck, all students from all two divisions, which is the life sciences division and the physical science, mathematics and computer science, that division, that newly created division.
I didn't know there was going to be a quiz today.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm a little, I haven't memorized that one yet, but I basically recruit students from both of those divisions to come and work in my lab, and they work through a gamut of processes and answering a lot of questions and research that we look at, which the overarching goal is to make materials that will treat osteoarthritis. So we look at basically making new materials that can be used to basically treat people with osteoarthritis towards basically regenerating articular cartilage.
So how do you do all this stuff virtually? I mean, that sounds...
It's a challenge.
So
it's beyond challenging right now because we were really ramping up. We had got some new equipment that was coming in. I actually had to go to campus the week after spring break to actually get my equipment that it was already, purchased to be delivered and installed and set up. So to be tangible on campus and actually do the work is not possible right now since we had to shut her down. So we're being creative with working on just literature articles, doing virtual lab meetings, and kind of discussing and solving problems through that. Looking at data that we've already acquired, trying to see if we can prepare manuscripts to publish. That's kind of the only creative way we can kind of work through this right now.
How many folks are in your lab?
I have about 4 graduate students that come from Clark Atlanta, Morehouse School of Medicine.
Okay.
And about 8 undergraduate students.
So how have they experienced this, this change of engagement?
So since this is the uncertain and we've never been here before in our lifetime, I talked to my grandmother about this actually, if she recalls anything happening in her lifetime. And we have to be fluid just as a situation, right? So we're just flexible, working the best way we can. Last week, we actually had a episode where one of my graduate students, professor, had to move their online exam, so he couldn't do his presentation. But I'm like, we do the best that we can and what we can considering the circumstance. So that's what we're just trying to be flexible and understanding, but still getting things done in the interim.
Right, sure enough. So, Dr. Wilson.
Yes.
Talk to us about all the stuff you've done. I mean, you it seems like you do so very much. I mean, you're chair of faculty. You also obviously teach. You actually run a program, research program with students. So can you tell us kind of, again, what your lift has looked like, how students have responded, and how you've tried to be responsive and responsible to them and to the faculty whole, I guess, as well?
Sure. So first, it's interesting to hear about Dr. Mendenhall's research and the shift over. I actually do theoretical math. My research area is in a theoretical area. I study algebraic structures, division algebras, matrix rings. I study non-commutative algebraic structures. I'm working on a project with an object called division algebras right now, and I have collaborators that I work with in Denver, 2 in England, and 1 in Greece.
Wow.
And so we've been Zooming, so we spent time together in England last summer, getting started, and we've been Zooming throughout the year. And so, for me, my research is sort of continuing as it has. I mean, there were pauses because we're all having to adjust to the shift to online. And so we took a little bit of a break, but our regular biweekly meetings are continuing. And so I had gotten used to how to talk about my projects in this way when I got collaborators, all over the world and stuff. So I'm mimicking that to some extent with my students, particularly students that I do projects with. When the extended spring break came up and we realized what was happening, one of the things I did, and I got lucky to do, I just made the commitment to do, was I had individual Zoom meetings with each of my students. I wanted to look them in the eye. I wanted to see how they were doing. I wanted to see if they had a laptop, see if they had a webcam on their laptop, if they had space in their homes that, they would actually be able to do work and be alone for a course meeting. I needed to remind myself of what time zone they were in and just sort of had a conversation. I wanted to know if the ages of people in their homes, so how careful they were being. So we talked about that. So that helped me think about what this was going to look like moving forward. I really thought long and hard about it, and I continue to think long and hard about it. Like, what are the learning experiences I can create for my students? Yeah. Like, I think about that already, and so I have answers for that when we're face-to-face. I just did not have answers for that virtually. And, my students are amazing. They're dynamic. They're at Morehouse College. They deserve extraordinary learning experiences. They are going to be here. I don't think I'm teaching any seniors right now. I'm not teaching any seniors. I was thinking about their readiness for the fall. And so I had to think hard about what my shifts and goals were going to be and stuff. What was reasonable objective for a successful semester for my students. And I'm still answering that question, and it ranges from them just to continue be interested in mathematics for me.
Right.
This is such a strange experience that, at a minimum, I don't want them leaving this 6 weeks going, I may need to think about another major or think about another institution or think about another way to engage in learning. So at a minimum, I want to do that. And then, I want them to continue to embrace this process. So it's been fun. It's been interesting. to watch and see week to week how things change so rapidly, and their response to things changes.
How has their response been?
Well, so the first week there was just a lot of enthusiasm to just, I think they missed each other. I think they were concerned about each other. And so getting back into the routine and understanding what that routine was going to look like was exciting. Last Monday when I held class, I noticed I only had 2 videos on, whereas when we started, all my videos were on. And, 10 minutes in, I just had to stop and plead with my students, like, listen, I don't know if you put clothes on. So if you didn't put clothes on, keep your videos off. But if you do happen to have clothes on right now, would you mind turning your videos on? It's just much more pleasant for all of us, to at least be able to see each other. So I had a few videos that popped on, and then by Wednesday, everybody's video was on, So, I think we're all sort of figuring out how to do this in this sort of strange way and stuff.
So can you tell me this? I guess one of the things that I think is really interesting and something I experienced in teaching my classes, and that you see kind of manifest in popular culture and the coverage of COVID-19 right now, is how it is that our community, the Black and Brown community, is hard hit by this. And Dr. Wilson, you talked about how it is that you wanted to make sure that you looked folks in the eye, you saw who was there and what was going on. To me, that very much seems connected to the mission-driven orientation that the folks who are at Morehouse, faculty and staff, are charged with. Have you noticed, that you've done any, not additional heavy lifting or additional work in that regard, but have you been sensitive to that or noted, how it is that our students seem to be impacted?
You mentioned the mission, and there's just been lots of talk on the college even before this about moving to online courses, what that would look like. And so here we are. And, I've never thought that the reason to go to Morehouse was to get a college degree. That's a consequence of going to Morehouse. But, you choose a Morehouse college for much, much more than getting a college degree. You choose a Morehouse college to highly engage with faculty, to get exposed to extraordinary experiences like Dr. Mendenhall's lab, right? To get tapped in to opportunities beyond Morehouse, starting in the summer, starting with conferences, starting with all kinds of experiences and stuff. One advantage we have with what's going on here with the pandemic is I know these students. I knew students because of the first half of the semester. Some of them I've known because I'm teaching them a second or a third time and stuff. So there's a relationship there that I'm able to, at least partially engage at that high level that should be happening at a Morehouse college.
Right.
But, I keep thinking, what if I was just meeting them for the first time on Zoom? Like, how does that work? Last week there were senior seminar presentations going on, right? And so that's happening at Zoom now. And one of the seniors presented, and you always in these scenarios remember them as freshmen, and you see the growth that happened. And you're just like, this happened because of many, many factors that are happening here at Morehouse College. Could that have happened online for 4 years? So I have an answer to that, but there are. So one of the things my office hours online have been pretty solid, pretty good. I have 2-hour slots for office hours. They have gone 4.5 hours.
Wow.
Because we've gotten to this rhythm where I can step away. Like, okay, y'all, I'll be right back. And, fold up some laundry because they need that time. And it's been comfortable. It doesn't feel intrusive. So, I mean, I may adopt when we're back in an in-person environment, maybe some online office hours on a Sunday evening when that's their prime time, that I would not dare go on campus to meet with students on a Sunday evening. But I'd maybe open up my laptop and, see what's going on.
Yeah.
What about you, Dr. Mendenhall?
I think for me, it's interesting about the camera, talking to the black screen. Ironically, I've noticed the students in the class may not want to show their face as much, but the lab students for our lab meetings, it's all full face. They seem to be very excited about it. Just seeing their lab members again. So it's a little bit more informal, I guess, or less intimidating as the class Zoom. But the other kind of interesting thing now is also for the summer. So a lot of the students, that we have in our research laboratories can, move on to do summer experiences. And now that's kind of in limbo if not going to happen, which is unfortunate. So it's trying to figure out ways to move there. I have another funding source through Department of Energy where I send students to a national lab for the summer. So we've been in discussions with DOE about how to still make it work. Kind of being a lab bench scientist, you really need to be in the lab, to generate data. And that conflict is coming up with just trying to figure out, can we do that online, or, can we, will it not happen this year? And what will be the concessions made to actually help, transition us for this point? So it's a lot of uncertainty, unfortunately. And like Dr. Wilson said, being as accommodating as we can, doing something on Sunday, which we never would do during the academic year. But, if it works, and being flexible, outside of the class time to see what works for the students, giving their our home situations, having our kids maybe run up onto the camera, which mine typically do. So he's busy right now doing his schoolwork, but, just everyone's trying to figure out how to transition the best way we can to get the best result. And it's a huge experiment, unfortunately, that we're having to succumb to. So
not to get all super in your business, but as we kind of prepare to close out the conversation, can you talk about what your personal life has looked like in terms of adjusting things? Like, are there things that you're doing to make sure that you're staying centered and not going insane? Are you reading an extra 2 or 3 hours a day, or what does that look like for each of you?
I'll let Dr. Wilson go first.
So I've been on my bicycle every day. That's my big outlet, is to be outside. So I've been doing longer and longer rides, which normally I do these short little puny rides, but this has energized me to do longer rides. And I had a Zoom dinner with family,
That's cool.
and there's been a few Zoom happy hours, and it was Zoom book club and things like that. I discovered audiobooks. I had never done an audiobook before, but I was not interested in reading a book on my screen. So I had, because I'm on the screen constantly, which is just not lovely. I miss the in-person, interactions with people. And so the screen time. So I was initially thought, I'm not going to be able to read a book. But then it was like, oh, right, there's these audiobooks. So I discovered that. And so that's another distraction for me.
So do you have, 2 questions. First is, with respect to biking, how do you bike and make sure you're still not in contact with people? And I'm asking because I've done the same. Like, I've been biking and I see myself going out of the way, almost running into traffic, trying not to get in somebody's, backwind or anything like that. Have you been careful with that?
Yeah, so I stopped going on the belt line because I was on the belt line quite a bit. But people seem to be confused about the notion of 6 feet on the belt line. But the good news is there's a lot of cars on the road. So I'm a pretty wimpy rider. I don't ride a lot on the road, but I felt much more comfortable riding on the road now because there's so few cars, especially first thing in the morning. So that's been great. And that's how I've been going a little further than I normally do. So.
And what's a good book? Do you have a good book that you might recommend?
Nah.
No, not really. I know that's right.
I'm reading really, I'm horrified by the book I'm reading now, so I don't even want to mention it. So yeah.
No worries, no worries. Dr. Mendenhall, what about you?
Yeah, so I have, on a personal level, I have a newborn who is 4 months old, and I have a 4-year-old. So it's a job and then a job. It's several jobs in a day. So, trying to prepare his curriculum, and keep him, up to date with what he should be preparing for kindergarten, and keeping the 4-month-old together, in addition to maintaining equilibrium for myself, continuing to engage with the students, teach the students. I've also implemented doing daily walks. That's about as much as I can do. I actually donated my bike, so now I need to order a new one. I can't ride my bike anymore. But in addition to that, I'm giving myself a plug. I also DJ, so it's out there. And Saturday, my DJ name is DJ Periodic. So I believe in equilibrium, everyone. So let's say that I believe in living life to the fullest. We work hard, we play hard, right? So every Saturday I have something called this social distancing block party. Wow. And I get outside in my subdivision and I DJ music, and I also do it on Facebook Live. I've actually had a lot of my former students join. Some of the Morehouse faculty have actually logged on to actually support it. And so that's what I do every Saturday, to kind of just bring some unity, some euphoria to people, just to kind of lighten the mood. So we have people in my subdivision, they come out with their chairs, they're out in their driveways, they're sitting, the kids are playing, just to kind of, make light of the situation. But that's in addition to during the week, we're still having Zoom collaboration meetings, still working on grant proposals, still trying to get things done. So, but it doesn't stop. So it's still like, no breaks, no naps, just, 7 a.m. to probably midnight every day.
I hear that.
But this too shall pass. We'll get through this.
I want to thank you all so much for making time to be in conversation today. I know that both of you all have a lot that you are doing, juggling yourself and your students and scholarship and whatnot. And I think that both of you are such a testament to the institution. Again, the mission-driven orientation that we are engaged in is made that much sharper and finer because of your contribution. So thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you all in person very, very soon.
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks.
Take good care.
Dear old Morehouse, dear old Morehouse, we have pledged our